Hello, it's Zoe. Welcome back to the show. My question for you this week is, do you have what it takes to be a disruptive leader? Let's find out. On Planet Human this week, electric plastic. Yes, really interesting advanced innovation. Self-powered wearables, right? They are made with possible neural interfaces. They are made from peptide amphiphile, which is a combination of a soft organic ferroelectric material. What it does mean, though, when we combine this peptide with this organic material, it means that you can have this thing that you put on or in your body that reduces power requirements and has boosted heat tolerance, and it can interface directly with the body. So this would mean like it'll accelerate embodied technologies like bionic eyes and computer brain interfaces and things like that, over which I'm obsessed with. Now, there is some problems with the development, of course, because when it breaks down, it produces these forever chemicals, which are not good for your health or for the planet. So there is some work to do with this. Why I'm sharing this, it means that technology and biology is becoming more synthesized with these kinds of interfaces. And that sort of heralds the development of a new type of human, the transhuman. And we've talked about that before on the show. There might be two categories of humans, sort of organic humans and amplified humans. And will there be discriminatory experiences depending on which one you are? And how will that play out? Keep watch. On Planet Zoe, I'm still skiing, so no work is happening. At least I hope there's no work happening as I'm pre-recording this in December before I get into Japan to go skiing. So that's all you're going to get from Planet Zoe at the moment. What if and how might we? The question that I'm looking at is based on my book, People Stuff, and two of the archetypes in here. Because of the conversation I had with my guest today, which is all about disruption and digital disruption, I thought about these two archetypes, the pioneer and the guardian. And while both of them are focused on progress, they go about it in different ways. The pioneer is all about disruption, new horizons, that kind of like, let's just try and something new altogether. The guardian is about preserving what's useful about the past while also moving forward. And the tension between the two can be challenging. And the shadow side, as I will showcase in Power Games, can be debilitating for organizations. So what I'm curious about is, what if we could harness the best of the pioneer and the best of the the best of the pioneer and the best of the guardian, not the gambler, pioneer and guardian. How can we do disruption and preservation? The thing to look at is, what do we need to take from the past that is useful for us moving into the future? And this is actually a futurist methodology as well. We look back into patterns in history. This is what we can take from the past to move us into the future. What's happened in the past that's led us to the present moment that we can capitalize moving into the future? What lessons can we take from the past that can serve us well into the future? What systems, practices, and products that are ripe for disruption? I think those things are ripe for disruption. What is not necessarily ripe for disruption, which will navigate us into the future, are our values. What are the things that we hold most dear? What is our end game? What is our purpose? That stays constant and like a steady keel or a compass, whatever navigation metaphor you want to use, to helping us stay on the trajectory for what we're meant to do on the planet. So I think that's how we can balance the pioneer and the guardian. Take what's best out of the past, keep what's going to be perennial for us, and then look to disrupt around systems, products, and practices. That's the edge that we can move into. Tea time in the office kitchen. My guest today is Kumar Parakala. Now, he's a very interesting gentleman, very accomplished in the technological disruption area. He is a founding member of KPMG's $2 billion technological advisory. So he's been high in the tech advisory space for a long time. He's currently the president of GHD Digital, an accomplished author of Lead to Disrupt, 7 Keys to Success in a Changing World. And he is very smart and savvy, and we have a very interesting conversation. Without further ado, here is Kumar. Well, all the way from Texas, welcome to the show, Kumar Parakala. Oh, I did get that right. I'm like, I had my K's and P's all mixed up, but no, Parakala. Welcome, Kumar.
Thank you, Zoe. You got it absolutely right, and you pronounced it very well.
Oh, thank you. My brain was a little jumbled there for a second. Well, lots happening in the world, and you've got a new book out called Lead to Disrupt: 7 Keys to Success in a Changing World. Absolutely what we need now. And I'm curious about the future of leadership. And what do you think we need for leadership now that's different to leadership in the past?
Yes, Zoe, the world is changing, as we all know, faster than we can imagine. And I have led my life more than the last 35 years in the corporate sector. And I have been fortunate enough to be in leadership roles, senior executive roles, and have worked with many leaders around business leaders around the world, including and also the political leaders. Uh, I realized that the business leaders and the political leaders set the tone for what really leadership means in the current world. And they also have the responsibility of uh, ensuring that the organizations that they lead achieve the purpose and fulfill the dreams of the people they employ. So, based on that experience, of my last 20, 25 years, I felt that the leadership that is being embraced right now, particularly in the corporate sector, uh, is not changing at the pace at which it needs to. And therefore, there's a great deal of alignment between Zoe, your mission of being a leadership futurist and talking about the future of leadership, and my mission of articulating one side of that leadership, which is corporates, because corporates employ millions of people. They are responsible for the well-being of those people. And the leaders in those corporates need to be absolutely ready to be prepared for the future. And that's the book is all about.
So, obvious question then, what do we need to be prepared for the future?
That our leadership models have evolved over time, but they've not gone through a big radical change, whereas we have gone through that radical change everywhere else. So some of the leadership models that we have are very much aligned to the industrial age. And we are seeing some evolutions in the business schools and so on and so forth. But I'm not seeing a drastic shift in the way the world is changing and the way the leadership needs to change. And from that perspective, before we get into what needs to change, we need to briefly reflect on what are the challenges to the current model. The current model, in terms of vision, you increasingly visionary leaders in business are becoming lesser and lesser. People are driven by short-term needs and in publicly listed companies, the stock price that drives us. A vision is an issue. Short-termism and finite mindset is an issue. We see ethical challenges coming up. We are seeing huge hindrances to innovation coming right from the top. Uh, COVID has actually helped us to understand the role of empathy and connecting with other people. Again, leaders are not fully prepared to embrace that empathetic self. Uh, and again, many organizations, especially the bigger organizations that I'm very familiar with, are hierarchical. They're complex. They lack agility. These are all the challenges of current leadership. So what I proposed is that as a leader, as the world is changing fast because of a variety of reasons, including technology acceleration, climate change, and a number of other things. Um, every leader, anyone who believes is a leader, and manager and leader, there's a clear difference. So I'm talking about leaders. I'm not talking about managers. I'm also very, very strongly opinionated about not every manager can automatically become a leader. A good manager can run the books, run the operations, run the figures, can deliver great results. They don't really become a leader automatically. And I'm talking about the business context here. So, in my view, every leader should challenge the so-called conventional wisdom that we have been conditioned with for such a long time. Uh, they should take more risk, thrive with risk taking. They should learn voraciously and continuously, gathering insights from diverse sources and show resilience. So the four things that a leader must do. The new leader should be a contrarian compared to the conventional wisdom. That's what my book is all about. They should challenge, they should take more risks, they should learn rapidly, and they should show resilience. So I have 7 principles in my book, which I have explained in great detail. To be an effective leader in the modern world, the first and foremost principle is develop a disruptive mindset. That means you need to be able to challenge how things are going and be willing to make huge shifts as far as ways of working are concerned.
Can I ask you a
Higher
little bit
purpose.
about that before you move on, please, Kumar? So,
Yeah.
a disruptive mindset is actually quite a challenging thing to embrace. I think
Yes.
because it requires a willingness to go into the unknown, to embrace uncertainty, and to feel confident in that. And that's
Yeah.
actually an advanced leadership maturity attribute or capability. So, how do you espouse that we get people shored up for that? Like to lose the anchor of certainty and structure and the past, if you like, those old paradigms, as you called them, or those old models. How do we get people to embrace all that?
Yes. That's a great question, Zoe. I can just talk from my own personal perspective. And in fact, this book is my personal philosophy that I have adopted for the last, 20, 25 years. So for me, I have a responsibility when I have thousands of people relying on my leadership. I have a responsibility to evolve and make the world a better place. I'm talking about not only the society, but just in particular the business that I have more influence in. So it is about the values. So if you have to have the disruptive mindset and disruptive thinking, you need to have the values that will say, hey, the way things are going is not good enough. We as an organization, as a business, need to evolve. I, as a leader, need to evolve. And from that perspective, I must, one, challenge the sacred rules that everyone has followed because those rules may or may not be valid anymore. But very importantly, I also need to be vulnerable because that allows me to learn. So disruptive mindset in my view is the values that you're going to have for the greater good to challenge things that are outdated. That's where the disruptive mindset comes in and innovation comes in. So that's my summation of why or how you can build it. It just goes back to challenging yourself and challenging the people around you in a respectful way to excel.
I think this is an uphill battle, given the current context in which we find ourselves. So, as we're recording this, the election results in the U.S. have come through, and one of the interpretations of that result, with Trump being voted in, the Republican agenda being voted in, is that it's actually less about disruption and more about conservation, a return to older paradigms. And if there's such a massive shift to security and safety and back to the good old days, how then do we pioneer forward? I think there's a huge center of gravity that is pulling against that of creating the new. So do you find that's an impediment, or do you just soldier on despite all of that?
Yes, I think President Trump's election and his coming to power has been in news for several weeks now, and I do have a different perspective living in Texas.
Yeah,
Texas is
please tell
a
me.
very strong hold of the Republican Party. And the other day, I was going for a board meeting at a place called Braxton, and I drove about 5 hours from my home, Zoe. And as I was passing through various cities and ranches and farms, I saw some houses have, you know, certain signs, but the dominant sentiment of the people as I was driving through was in support of President Trump.
Mhm.
And that is because of two reasons. One, I think the so-called middle class, their quality of life and their standard of life living is coming down. So there is a certain level of dissatisfaction. And this situation is very similar to what we have seen happen in UK during the Brexit time,
Mhm.
when the middle class and economically not so well people are impacted. They go for some of these choices to see if these leaders can actually protect them. Number one. Number two, President Trump is very well known to be pro-business.
Mhm.
So to make America great, and I'm an Australian being, observing, business needs freedom. Business needs innovation. Business needs entrepreneurship. It cannot survive with a lot of controls and a lot of penalties and things like that. So those are the two things. I do feel that the new administration will help create a more business savvy environment. And that's where the business community, again, if you see quite openly, they have supported President Trump's election. And also, the general masses have supported President Trump because they want the policies to be having some impact on their well-being as well. And so I think those are two, in my view, those are two major reasons why he came on board. There are other controversial topics, but they're all very debatable, Zoe. And I mean, I've heard the debates both on Democrats and Republicans. They're equally compelling to believe on both sides. It's a matter of which side you choose and what your own belief system is and how you align those conversations to your own belief system.
Well, thank you. You've added a little bit of nuance to my analysis, which is that though there is a huge element of conservatism, which harks
Yes.
back to preservation and therefore would imply lack of innovation, there is also at the same time an agenda for open innovation. So it's kind of contradictory in some ways, but perhaps we're talking about different areas of being conservative in terms of values and ethics and principles versus the approach to business. And yes, you can have both as we're seeing.
So I mean, who is one of the biggest supporters of President Trump, who has come out quite openly?
Oh,
Guess.
Elon. Well, look, Elon's. I've actually done a podcast on reflecting on what is Elon doing, because
Yes.
you kind of look at him and go, all right, so he's either a brilliant wizard and he's embraced this faction that is going to revolutionize and liberate business as well as protect his own investments, such as Tesla,
Yes.
because they'll put tariffs off on China, which will also sitting at the feet of the king. He will have huge influence and maybe he can steer his own environmental agenda through that way. Now, he is also a big proponent of keep the fetters off business. We can go harder, faster, and better as a result. So I get that. The other side of Elon that I've been wrestling with is he just power crazy? And I think maybe. And I was saying that to our mutual colleague Joe, and she said, "Well, maybe a bit of both." I'm like, "That's probably about the truth of it."
Yeah, I mean, I just recently finished a book which was written about him, and you may have read it as well. It is a very, very big book, and it has almost got about 1,000 pages by Walter
Yeah.
Isaacson, and
Yes.
I've completed reading it recently. I do believe Elon Musk is a genius. He's not like anybody that we know. And people like him come once in a lifetime. During our generation, we had Steve Jobs, we have Elon Musk. Uh, we had Martin Luther King, we got Mahatma Gandhi. These are all exceptionally different, highly talented people who have taken a very, very narrow view of, not narrow view, but a very, very focused view of what needs to be done. And there is always going to be a lot of, and Mahatma Gandhi had a lot of criticism. I mean, I know in India, even
Sure.
today, people criticize Mahatma Gandhi for things. So I do believe that, just going back to the topic, with Musk there, with the technology, uh, large technology companies collaborating with the government, I do feel that a new era of innovation will emerge in the United States, not just because the Trump administration wants it. It's all because this is the only way through which Zoe United States can remain ahead of rest of the world. If that
Mm.
innovation doesn't happen, the United States will fall behind. And I think a lot of intellectuals, people whom I know in Silicon Valley, they all understand this. And I do believe that innovation is going to be a major focus going forward.
I agree, and I think that would be the case under either Republican or Democratic government institution. I wanted to ask you along the way, also given our current context, how ethics fit into this, because you talked about the current landscape and there's lots of ethical challenges, and a lot of the what have others have called the moral outrage, particularly around progressives, about the lack of ethics being bolted onto or not being bolted onto the Republican push, and perhaps
Yes.
alongside Elon as well. Yes, he's pioneering. Yes, he's visionary. Yes, he's radical. And again, in that book, it cites maybe not always ethical in terms of there's a lot of collateral damage around Elon with his pursuit of his vision. Where do you sit along that? Like, how do ethics fit into the innovation agenda?
Yeah, I think ethics is extremely important. Um, and as we are becoming technologically more advanced, it becomes more and more important. So I'll talk about ethics in AI.
Yeah.
Now you have deepfakes, you have data which can be used through AI models, can create serious biases. You can have discriminatory conversations using AI models with people. You can have all sorts of things, and the individual ethical challenges will be multiplied 1,000 times if we are not careful with the advent of AI-enabled models
Mm-hmm.
and solutions. So what I believe is, for the society to continue to remain vibrant and prosper, ethics needs to be one of the most important topics that the society needs to work on with other advancements. Ethics without technological advancements without ethics is a classic recipe for disaster.
Mm.
And so they go hand in hand. But unfortunately, the technological evolution is far ahead than the evolution of ethical standards in this space. And that's the reason why, as you know, many scientists and business people and inventors of deep technology, they called for banning of AI for 6 months, and because of those concerns,
Mm.
I think we need to catch up. And just to answer your question, it's a very important need. We are not there yet, and we cannot wait for disasters to happen, which many times governments wait for something to happen before they act. We don't have that time, and it's time now to seriously take ethics across
I
the
would
society.
agree. And it's not just
Yeah.
in AI, like, and then again, I feel like again it's a push uphill, because if we can't have ethical agreements in the political arena or in the free speech arena, how are we going to have ethics in the AI arena? And I think this is a fraught topic, because we need some sort of agreement on what are ethical principles, and we can't even agree on what is truth and what is perspective. Do you have a solution for that?
I think the solution, in my view, Zoe, is very simple. Ethical breaches and wrong things happen in the society
Mm-hmm.
when those who need to speak up don't speak up. Those who need to participate don't participate. Those who need to challenge don't challenge. That's what my book is all about. You got if you're a leader, you need to challenge the status quo. You need to challenge what you don't agree. You need to express your views. You need to show radical candor. How many of our people do that? So again, this is a challenge to anyone who considers themselves as a leader in the society. That's the only way you can change it. We can't keep complaining about our political choices if we are not willing to stand ourselves in those political roles, our political positions, or go out and do whatever the politicians are doing and stand. And it's a great example that if you don't stand up and you're on the sideways, somebody else will take over and run the show for you. And that is unfortunately the case in many countries and many situations.
Kumar, I'd like to add on to that. So it seems a little bit like you're implying that there's a personal failing involved in this, that we all need to take personal responsibility for speaking up. And to a large extent, I agree with that. And the part that I want to add is that why don't people speak up is because often the system is stacked against them. There is really quite a massive threat or perilous situation if they do speak up, and that the truth tellers are often punished. Here in Australia, we have terrible whistleblower protections. In fact, there are hardly protections at all. We have one key whistleblower, say, for example, who put forward bad situations or unethical behavior happening in the Australian Tax Office. He is now being persecuted and prosecuted in the Supreme Court because he recorded conversations illegally. So forget that he brought to light all these transgressions. He's being prosecuted for that. So where are the whistleblower protections? So my point is that there's an element of, yes, we must learn how to find our voice and speak up and step in. I agree with that. And we also need to do some systems change to protect people to do that, to encourage people to do that, because there's not a lot of reward for ethical heroes to step into the void. What's your point? What's your perspective on that?
No, I agree. I agree with you, but it requires courage to
Yeah.
challenge. I've been in situations where I'm the only one challenging out of the 10 group of 10, and in some places, and people look at me quite strangely. And sometimes when you challenge, you're also seen as a troublemaker.
That's right.
So you got to live with that and also be true to your values. And, that's where the disruptive leader comes in. I'm not going to change something in the best interest of my people or the world or the community that I'm serving, because it's not something that some people may not like to listen. I would be very respectful, and I would be pursuing that matter or matters, uh, and that's what I've been doing for the last almost 10 years, where I've been talking about digital disruption. Digital disruption is going to basically disrupt organizations. Leaders will lose, managers will lose their jobs, many staff will lose their jobs. They need to continue to reinvent themselves to remain employed. And people don't like to listen. People say, oh, that's bad news, we don't want to listen. But that's the reality. Digital acceleration is happening. AI is coming in. Jobs will be impacted. A lot of jobs At least 5 million jobs, as far as World Economic Forum is concerned, are at risk in the next 2 to 3 years. If we don't talk about these things, you can't get solution. I do that. I don't see many people actually are open. And I think that is what we need. We need our leaders to take a balanced view. You don't want to criticize everything that's happening. There's a lot of good things happening, but it's a matter of taking your responsibility seriously to challenge the status quo, to challenge your comfort zone, to build those relationships where you can collaborate and do different, bigger and greater things. I think that is very much needed. I think people have to take personal accountability for those kind of things, Joey.
Yes. And I'm just thinking about this, like I'm visualizing you speaking up and putting the hard truth and saying this is the future, and people are freaking out because, again, this attachment to security and safety and certainty, which is very reassuring, to throw it all into the wind and say let's lean into the uncertainty piece. Not everybody is braced for that. And so what I guess we've been digging around a little bit about what are the principles or the keys to success, as you've got in your tagline of your book. One of them is
Yeah.
knowing your purpose is that you're here to make things better in the world. B, knowing what your values are so that you are compelled and required for your own inner convictions to speak up, and that's kind of sustains you. I pointed out that maybe the system is pushing it back against that. Do you just have Teflon hide, or what are the other key principles that can help buoy a disruptive leader?
So I do believe that a disruptive leader is a contrarian who continues to do what he or she believes is their higher purpose. Okay, the higher purpose drives them. So other than having a disruptive mindset, they also need to have a disruptive higher. The higher purpose should be bold enough and strong enough to pull them out of the bed every day. If it's just turning up to work every day to keep the lights on, that's not a disruptive high purpose. My disruptive high purpose for this industry, which is a $200 billion industry, employs 300 million people, is to help people embrace technologies so that they're better off in the next 5 to 10 years. They have their job, they have their employment, they have their prosperity, organizations flourish. So it's a very powerful, for me personally, it's a very powerful higher purpose. So I think people need to think about what their higher purpose, other than just showing up at work every day, is. Third thing is comfort zone. We get used to comfort zone, Zoe. I get used to comfort zone, doing things in the same way for a long time. I think we just need to ask again, is this comfort zone ideal right now, or do we need to challenge that? So that's one of the principles. I've spoken quite in detail in the book about it. Comfort zone is the biggest trap. People's potential is seriously compromised. There are people who can do great things, and I know people, I've worked with many of them, marvelous, brilliant people. But because they are so used to their comfort zone, they don't achieve their potential. That's another principle. Building relationships. People stick to only people whom they know within their own organization and their family. Don't build relationships. I have had the privilege of being able to build relationships with politicians, prime ministers, presidents, movie stars, CEOs. I even do now. I mean, we've been in San Antonio, have a relationship with the mayor, we had a relationship with the county judge. And that is because, to do something big, you need to collaborate and support of people who are able to align with you, work with you. So it's like a team effort. So again, disruptive thinking is my next principle. Challenging the status quo, once in a while, without destabilizing organizations and systems, we should ask, is this good enough? Can we do something better than that? In the world where the technological advancements are so fast, challenging status quo is very important to remain in business. Last but not least, Zoe, we have seen this during the COVID time, mental resilience. Personally, mental resilience was never in my forefront before COVID. And I personally had to cope with the stress that comes with being completely isolated. I'm a people person. I engage with people all the time, and you're sitting in an apartment. I was sitting in a high-rise building in Chicago where this idea of this book came up. Very cold, -10, -15 degrees Celsius. How do you keep your mental fragility from taking you over and you falling into a downward loop? It's a very, very big challenge for CEOs and senior leaders. They're not immune to it. And again, having that mental resilience is very important. And also, last but not least, with principle number 7, you got to have some radical accountability. When you are a disruptive leader, your supporters, your investors, your stakeholders, they're putting a lot of trust in you. It's happened with me. People have put a lot of trust in me for the ventures that I've started, in the roles that I've been. And I spend 3 times more time than anybody else actually sharing information, explaining to them the progress. Again, that's extremely important. So there are 7 or 8, it's basically 7 principles that one should look at.
Thank you for sharing all those. And I think the last one, radical accountability, is something that's often missing in organizations, the ones that are disruptive or not. So the research that I'm doing for my latest book definitely shows that poor accountability contributes to power games and toxic cultures. And I think increasing transparency will be really important alongside that. I have a personal question for you. So you want to respond to that?
Sorry to interrupt, Zoe.
Go for it, Kumar.
Where there is no accountability, clear accountability and KPIs, politics takes over. And then, and you see that again and again. Many times the senior most executive, they have KPIs for everyone else except themselves.
Yes.
And that's where the politics is. So you're absolutely right.
So a personal question before we move to the fast 3. And the personal question is, you talked about comfort zones. When was the last time you had your comfort zone challenged?
I challenge my comfort zone every day. And I've got a great partner, my spouse, Patty, and she challenges me every day. And then I got a very smart daughter. She challenges me. So I've got 2 very smart women at home that challenge me all the time. But very importantly, Zoe, what I do is I get up every day every day, and I say, okay, I'm expecting all this from my team, my people, my stakeholders, my bosses. But what am I doing myself? So I'm doubly vigilant about my outdated skills, or outdating skills. I'm known to have left jobs when I've been very, very good job. I mean, I've written this in books, very cushy jobs. I was a CI in Queensland government. I could have retired in that job when I was 29. I left because my skills were not growing. And so I don't continue in organizations or ventures if I believe that I'm not growing to be an effective leader. And again, that's a very bold thing to do. So that's what I do. I challenge myself on a daily basis. I seek feedback. I've got some very good advisors who give me frank and honest feedback, good and constructive. And I'm always keeping an eye open for what is the new thing out there in the world of leadership and personal development. I'm a little bit of a leadership personal development junkie. So I've got Mind Valley and Masterclass and everything available out there. So I see. So it's a matter of evolution. And so I would like to say I don't believe, I'm still there. I need to work harder. Only then I will be able to influence and inspire those who I'm interacting with.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, Kumar, are you ready for the fast 3?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's do it. Speaking of technology, what is the future technology you most want right now?
3 future technologies. One is I would like AI-enabled healthcare right now.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have visualization metaverse experience so that we can feel everything at home.
Mm.
And third thing is I want everything to be automated, including my lawn mowing and grocery shopping and what, so I can spend my time doing it. So there are three things: AI enablement, visualization, and automation.
Awesome. Well, you've written a leadership book. What is the best tip you ever got for leadership?
Uh, what I'd like to say to everyone who's in my kind of job and also in leadership, so-called leadership positions, the manager automatically never becomes a leader. And my tip is leadership is all about, and we should never forget this, leadership is all about inspiring and guiding others and leading by example. The moment you are not doing that, you may be delivering fantastic financial results. You're not a leader, you're a manager. And you got to understand that that is needed, but you're not a leader.
Love it. And number 3, what are you reading or listening to right now?
So I am currently, as I said to you, subscribed to Mind Valley, which is my latest platform for learning. And I am going through a number of courses in Mind Valley about the future of leadership. But right now, I'm reading a book by your namesake, Zoe Chance. That's what her name is. Influence is your superpower.
Mm.
That's the name of the book.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll check that one out. All right. Thank you, Kumar. That was the Fast 3.
Thank you. I feel so relieved.
They weren't that hard, honestly. So what question haven't I asked that you'd love to answer?
I think we covered a range. I mean, I've spoken about everything that I wanted to speak. One thing I would like to say is a leader's personal accountability to themselves is far greater than uh, anything else. So you got to be true to yourself. You got to be real. You got to be able to look, as I say in Australia, you got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror every day and be happy with who you are.
That's a lovely message. Thank you so much. Kumar,
Yes.
where can people find out more about you, your work, and your book?
Well, I have a website called www.kumarparakala.com or leadtodisrupt.com. Both of those websites will direct them to the book. The book is available on all major platforms, including Amazon and others. So it's universally available, and I'm very privileged that it's been rated bestseller in 7 categories.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations. And I look forward to digging into it myself. So, Kumar, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really enjoyed our conversation. It was wide ranging, it was in depth, and it added dimensions to my thinking. So I'm very grateful for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zoe, for the opportunity.
Read to Lead. We have Kumar's book, Lead to Disrupt: The 7 Keys to Success in the Changing World. From a man who's done it a number of times, who's the leader in the front of disruptive technology, he looks at what does it take as an individual? What is your mindset and practices and beliefs and networks that you need in order to accomplish disruptive pioneering leadership? It's a fascinating book, really useful anecdotes and some great suggestions. So that is Read to Lead this week, Lead to Disrupt. That's the show for this week. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you've got some comments, suggestions, recommendations, anything really, feel free to email me, zoe@zoerouth.com. Write a comment on any one of the social platforms you might be listening to. Be sure to subscribe in the app where you're listening, or become a podcast insider where you get all the juicy extra bits that support your insights on these topics. And you can do that at zoerouth.com and click on podcast. In the meantime, live with grace, lead in service, live well, lead well.